Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Anastasia Oprea. I'm a campaign and project officer at ECOLISE, and I would like to welcome you today to our event on food democracy in practice, commons governance, bioregional partnerships, and the right to food. We will start in just a few minutes, hoping that everyone wants to join can make it here. In the meantime, if you'd like to add to your name also your organization and your country, that might help us establish more contacts. As you've already seen, this meeting will be recorded and later on shared on the ECOLISE platforms. So if you wish to not appear in the recording, please keep your cameras off. Also, we welcome your engagement via comments and questions in the chat, or at the designated times by raising your hand to engage directly with the speakers and presenters. We will observe the regular, let's say, good engagement practices to stay muted while we are not intervening. And I would also like to present the team involved in the creation of this event, namely Caterina Bucoianis, the ECOLISE policy lead, and Enric, who will be supplying you with the relevant links on the chat. He's our technical and event support, so he'll make sure that everything goes according to plan. We also have here with us Janelle Con from the Enable domain, will be sharing with us some practices. And without further ado, I also want to tell you that the event we're here today participating in, Food Democracy in Practice, Commons Governance, Bioregional Partnerships, and the Right to Food, kicks off the ECOLISE food policy positioning campaign called Communities for Future, Good Food for All. We are here today to explore how food democracy is enacted in practice from the local level to the EU level of advocacy. Our campaign aims to mobilize communities, members and allies around shared priorities for just and sustainable food systems in Europe, while also marking the launch of the Right to Food European Citizen Initiative, which we will hear more about during our roundtable. This workshop will present food democracy in practice. We will also go very briefly through an overview of what an ECI is, a European Citizens Initiatives, and we will hear from Caterina about the ECOLISE positioning on food and its relation to the ECI right to food. So yes, we hope this is relevant to you, and if you would like to share what's your expectation for today in the chat, that might be interesting to read, and again, might help us establish more connections. And I think we can begin with the overview of what an ECI is. I will start sharing my screen. If there's any comments or questions, please share them in the chat. Okay, so like I said, this will be a very short introduction, supposed to help us all have some common ground on what a European Citizens Initiative is, namely a formal EU-level instrument of participatory democracy, which complements representative democracy, namely the elections. An ECI allows citizens to invite the European Commission to act, and it also puts citizens' priorities directly on the EU political agenda. What the conditions for an ECI to succeed are for it to gather at least 1 million signatures from 7 EU member states, with a minimum threshold per country, namely 750 signatures for each MEP from the country within a time frame of 12 months. What impact can an ECI have at an EU level? First of all, it forces a formal response from the European Commission, and it can trigger a public hearing in the European Parliament on the topic put forward by the citizens. Thus, it can influence new legislation, new policy strategies, funding priorities, as well as political narratives. And I have here two examples of ECIs, which have been quite successful, I would say. The first one would be Save Bees and Farmers, which is grounded on the idea that industrial agriculture is destroying biodiversity and undermining farmers' livelihoods, and that this model needs to change. This forced a EU-level response on pesticides and biodiversity. It influenced discussions on agroecology and farming models, as well as, very importantly, mobilized farmers, environmental groups, and citizens across Europe. The other ECI I have added here is My Voice, My Choice, which is ongoing, and I invite you all to follow how it is progressing. It is now awaiting a second hearing in the European Commission after having also been presented there before and also having been heard in the European Economic and Social Committee as well as the Parliament. What impact can an ECI have at national level? It, first of all, can mobilize national debates and national media on the topic it puts forward. It can strengthen civil society coordination, as well as create pressure on national governments. And very importantly, it can build long-term advocacy capacity. So here's a very synthetic, let's say, attempt at a visual representation. Once the citizens come together and put forward a successful ECI, this can then go on to the European Commission and or the European Parliament. It can gain traction in the media, either national or at EU level, but also via social media. We see this in successful ECIs such as My Voice, My Choice. It can then put pressure on national governments, strengthen collaboration and collective organization, and strengthen the advocacy capacities, making change thus more likely and possible at the EU level. So this is all from my side, quite synthetic, as I was saying. But I hope it gives a starting point for the discussion we will have today. Thank you, Enric, for sharing the links. And I will now give the floor to Katerina to give us more information about the ECOLISE food policy strategy and its link to right to food.
Hello, and thank you, Tasia. Thank you all for joining us today. As Tasia said, I'm Katerina Mikoyanis, and I've been working on a policy positioning on food. So ECOLISE is a very broad group of community-led initiatives for climate change and sustainability. But we started working on food because many of our members are working on food and are producing very innovative solutions and what sustainable food systems could look like. So we indulged in this process, which was grounded in extensive deliberations with our members and partners that aim to identify barriers and opportunities that community-led initiatives face when they're building sustainable food systems. This was a year-long process that ended up in a policy event in the EEC in Brussels last year, where and when I was also present before the ECI was launched. And a little bit about the process of reaching this positioning is that we had an editorial board. So we had 10 members of ECOLISE that offered their strategic guidance, ensured the thematic coherence of the policy proposals, did the peer review, shaped the content, and gave the legitimacy and all the perspectives that are reflected in the policy paper, where the ECOLISE team was leading the coordination and synthesizing and publishing the paper. But it was not just the editorial board that contributed it was not just the editorial board, a big group of partners who shared their perspectives, their very diverse perspectives and their expertise through this year-long process, which led to this collaboratively written manifesto for community-led food system transformation titled Reclaiming the Future of Food that you can read. But I will briefly share a bit of the diversity of the proposal that it includes, which starts with local, regional, and community-led food systems that are adapted to local contexts. We are reorienting food governance funding to empower the small producers and allowing for fair rules for all, enabling the transition to a just and resilient agriculture and food paradigm by investing and scaling farmer-led agroecological and regenerative practices, recognizing and supporting farming as a public service, making the transition to a regenerative paradigm viable and attractive to all. A bit about soil, nutrition, food literacy throughout different stages of education, prioritizing local and community grown food, getting closer to what food, local food councils as participatory governance bodies, drive it towards the shift innovation towards to drive the just transition and promote digital democracy to empower these community-led ecological food systems. And last but not least, recognizing food as a human right in EU laws and policies and food sovereignty as a matter of global justice, which is what led us to this to the next step, which is joining an even bigger alliance of food practitioners and researchers and activists from all around Europe in the Good Food for All campaign that had 299 members last time I checked. And it's an even broader coalition around the food as a human rights for all that includes many of the topics that I already mentioned earlier. And our speakers today will talk a lot more about what an ECI means and what we're aiming towards. So we invite you to sign and join us in this campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kat. I think we have been having a bit of trouble and you've been breaking up a bit, but I guess it should work better when you no longer have to share your screen. The next part of the event is focused on sharing practices, food democracy practices, everyday practices. And for this section, we have invited three participants, namely Janelle Kohn, who will talk about urban community gardening, Dražen Šimlesa from RIPES, who will talk about their work on public policy level in food, and Ramona Duminicioiu from Ruralis, who will talk about access to justice as a form of food democracy in practice. And I think if Janelle is ready, we can start.
Thank you. I have a few slides, so let me just share those. It works. Okay, can you see that?
Loading.
Loading. Lovely. Okay, thank you. It's super nice to be here. Thank you for the invite. As Tasia shared, I'm Janelle. I currently work at ECOLISE, but what I'm sharing today is based on my years, maybe decades, 15 years, working as a community gardener and urban food grower in London and across the UK. I worked with Capital Growth in London and nationally with Good to Grow. Those are both projects as part of Sustain, the Alliance for Better Food and Farming in the UK. And I also worked with Groundwork London. My role was to support community food growing projects and help people create spaces for food, connection, and collective action. I also spent many years growing food on rooftops, and those are some photos from the rooftops there as well. Growing for the people who lived within the building or the businesses, so restaurants and pubs. So yeah, my perspective comes from being on the ground, literally growing and working alongside people season after season.
Janelle, I'm sorry to stop you.
Yeah.
What we can see here is a black screen saying
Ah, shame. Let me stop. I can go on without the slides, but they're quite nice.
Maybe if you just share the screen without the full screen option.
Like this?
Yeah.
Maybe like this
I
is
think
better.
yes,
when
much better. We can see the images in your text now.
Yeah.
I hope that's okay. Let me know if it doesn't work again, as long as you can see those. Oh, I see. I see what you can see. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I worked with residents on housing estates, with school children planting their first seeds, with older people and with migrants sharing decades of knowledge, and also with people experiencing food insecurity and social isolation who also found nourishment in the garden and purpose in the garden. We grew food in all sorts of places, housing estates, school grounds, community centres. I was involved in a project growing food on disused overground railway tracks. And together we co-created, built raised beds, improved soil, composted, saved seeds, did all of those great urban growing things. And we also shared food locally. These places are very much more than just growing places. They're spaces to feel belonging and somewhere to go every week to feel connected and useful. So it's never really just about planting crops. They build relationships. These spaces build community, shared responsibility. People decide together what to grow, how to organize the space, how harvests are shared, and who needs to be included. These decisions are often informal, sometimes very messy, but very much political. So let me share that screen. They shape who has access, whose needs are prioritized, and how the space functions. And one of the most striking things I saw and continue to see is how communities create the spaces they want to live in and grow in rather than wait for someone else to design them. So what makes those spaces real isn't just permission, it's care. Across London, Capital Growth supports this work at scale. So it's a network of over 2,500 community gardens, school gardens, and growing spaces. Small local gardens therefore becomes part of something bigger. It's part of a citywide culture of growing. But yet something that we always came up against, and it's continuing to be a problem, is the same structural challenge, which is access to land. Here are just some photos of some of the gardens I've been involved in. So yeah, most growing spaces remain insecure. They're short leases, informal agreements, meanwhile spaces, and that's something we came up against a lot. So people invest years of care into a space without knowing if it will still exist the following season. That insecurity shapes everything. In practice, access to food depends on whether the land remains available. And this is where the right to food becomes really tangible for me. If food is a right, access shouldn't depend on temporary permission. And without secure access to land, the right to food remains abstract. Despite the precarity, people always and will continue to practice food democracy in these ways. They will negotiate responsibility, redistribute surplus, and they'll respond to local needs. Food democracy doesn't need to be invented. It already exists, and it has been happening for a long time. So when I reflect on this work that I've been doing for many years, working in community gardens and in the network of growers across London and in Europe, and with campaigns like Right to Food and the Right to Grow, which is gaining more traction in the UK. What stands out most is that people are already doing the hard work of food democracy. The challenge is ensuring that what people are already creating, spaces of cooperation, care, and shared responsibility, are met by governance systems that recognize them, protect them, and allow them to thrive. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janelle. What you presented is fascinating, and I think you touched the right principles, the right principle, which is that food democracy in practice is already happening. We just need to come together to bring it more into national and European politics. So next we will hear from Dražen Šimleša. Yes, actually, we have a question from Regen tribe.
Hi, yeah. My name is Sonia. This is name of the project. Thank you so much, Janelle. That was amazing. I would love to hear a little bit more. I'm reading the website right now for the project for capital growth, and I'm wondering what is the main source of funding for the community gardens? Is it out of the pocket from community members, or is it grant based? If you want to share.
Yeah, my experience, it really depends. A lot of it's small grants, local authority grants covering for those spaces in London. Also, a few larger charities in the UK. There's the National Lottery Fund and the Community Fund that a lot of our work came through. And on the really small scale, very grassroots level, it is they just, like, a lot of them weren't funded very well. It was literally through the pockets of the growers themselves. And the access to the land was through the housing associations themselves. So yeah, it varied and continues to vary. But a lot of, small grants as well. And quite precarious.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to Dražen now and hear about the public policy level of work in food that the initiatives he is involved in are engaged with.
Greetings to all. Hi, it is really great to be here. So my name is Dražen. I'm co-coordinator of RIPES Europe, now based in Croatia. My intervention here is just based, I want to raise once more why next to our grassroots work on food democracy, through urban gardening, through food cooperatives, community support agriculture schemes, why it is also important to work on public policy in food democracy, because I think we are all aware that then this kind of stories has much bigger impact and create real changes in a broader society. So from my perspective as an organization that is close to eco-village movement, we are one community 25 kilometers from our capital city, Zagreb. So we are working a lot on, producing food, community seed bank initiatives, education. We also have our own food cooperative that deliver food twice in a week to responsible citizens. But on the other hand, as a member of RIPES, we are also actively involved in promoting food democracy on a public policy level. One example is with the city of Zagreb, our capital city, and working group of the Zagreb mayor for urban food policy, where we are trying to secure citizen participation and also more local farmers involvement in supply chain in public institutions. But we are also active in on the state level. As I said, for us, very important topic, local and native seeds. So we are in several groups, working groups at our Ministry of Agriculture, where we are trying to secure freedom of use of local seeds and sharing. And also one group that is supervising how CAP, Common Agriculture Policy, is implemented in Croatia. And if you are checking through many RIPES members across Europe, we have similar situation. This trying to balance by working on the ground, as we said, in the grassroots level, in our communities, in our villages, in our cities on promoting food democracy in practice, but also trying to influence public policy because, as I said, we don't want to consider ourselves as some kind of isolated paradise that are completely self-sufficient and doesn't care what is happening in society. We are also member of society, and we are also aware that what is happening in society or how public policies are shaped, it also influences us. So we have many RIPES members that are participated in food councils that we already mentioned, in promoting and taking care of local seeds, green public procurement, citizens' involvement, for example, in designing urban parks or urban gardens, etc. So I just want for the to enrich our discussion, to emphasize how maybe it is sometimes it is demanding, it is hard, but we need to try to balance on both these sides of activism, one that is more grassroots, but the other that is more oriented to public policies. So thank you for me.
Thank you very much, Drazen. I think it is clear that for the voices of the people working with food and on land and so on, to be heard at national and EU level, we need to come together and have this kind of encounters where we exchange and learn about the importance of, like you said, both grassroots practices as well as ways which we can use to engage with public policy at all levels. I am having a quick look to see if there's any questions at this point. Okay. You have a question also on chat, Drazen? Oh, perfect. Already answered the name of the eco village. And to further enrich this discussion, I would like to invite Ramona Duminicioiu from Ruralis, who will talk to us about something which we less frequently hear in relation to food democracy, which is access to justice on food related topics and from a peasant rights perspective. So if you're ready, Ramona.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tasia. Congratulations to ECOLISE and to the entire team from ECOLISE for organizing this event. Congratulations also for your paper, which is so interesting and inspiring. I'm super happy to see Romanian participants here, but also people from neighboring countries from Eastern Europe and all around Europe. Hello to everybody. I represent a peasant organization that represents a lot of peasants, small-scale farmers around the country. And I want to share with you an experience that is something that is an ongoing process. Actually, today we had a very heated debate in court, in the Court of Appeal in Cluj-Napoca, where we are debating the Romanian Ministry of Agriculture for issuing and abusing the law for issuing illegal authorizations for banned pesticides that are not authorized in the EU. As a small-scale farmers organization, we believe we see ourselves as defenders of the right to food, and we are allies of the consumers and the citizens. And for us, it, unfortunately, is not enough to just produce healthy food, but we also need to defend this right in court. Food democracy is not an abstract concept. It's about whether citizens, regular citizens like us, like peasants and people from rural communities and consumers can defend their right to safe food, to healthy ecosystems, to dignified livelihoods by using democratic tools that we have at our disposal. We need to use these tools because we need to keep believing in the state of law, to keep believing in democracy. And yeah, that's what builds, and that's what makes a democracy sustainable and real. So in Romania, as I said, we decided to defend our right because we believed and we saw that this right to food is constantly undermined by the Romanian Ministry of Agriculture, which is abusing the law. And the issue is since 12 years, authorizations for pesticides, and I'm talking about neonicotinoids, a class of very, very toxic pesticides that are banned in the EU since a long time. And they have been doing this by only consulting industrial farmers and pesticides agrobusiness companies. And they have been completely and systematically excluding from these debates the small-scale food producers, beekeepers, and the people who produce food by using more ecological principles. This court case started in January, officially in January 2025, but we've been preparing for it for at least 1 year ahead. It started as one court case and it multiplied in several court cases. We're expecting for some decisions now from the Court of Appeal, but it's possible that based on potential appeals, that until we have a final and irrevocable decision, we're going to wait some more. But in any case, this is a court case that revealed for us a lot of information and a lot of how really corruption is functioning behind closed doors. And we are looking forward for the final moment when the case will be settled to be able to speak publicly about everything, all the discovery process that went behind this court case. This is not just an environmental case. It's about it's about food democracy. Industrial farmers in cahoots with the pesticides companies and the Ministry of Agriculture have been pushing for a production model that is unhealthy for the nature and healthy for the consumers, that is basically making everyone depending on toxic inputs. We have a national opinion poll that we ordered that is showing that 89% of Romanian consumers don't want to consume pesticides and don't agree that Romanian farmers use pesticides that are banned in the EU, and they're pushing also the standards of the European Union public policies. So the right of consumers all around the country have been denied the right to healthy food. Beekeepers and small-scale food producers are bearing the consequences and the costs of this abuse of law, while during all these years, agrobusiness have been capturing the benefit. So we had basically no choice but to access justice, which became the tool to confront this imbalance of power. We had our first success in court in the spring of 2025, and that was the moment when we managed to stop the use of neonicotinoids on 3 million hectares of arable land. This is something that we did not expect. We didn't realize the impact would be so great. But I can just very confidently tell you that access to justice can, if successful, can have a tremendous impact, sizable to good public policy, positive public policy. So I'm encouraging everybody to start using this, because it not only has immediate positive benefits, but it helps build the state of law, which is so important during today's crisis. I think that our court case shows why the right to food must be included in public policies across the EU. In order to realize this, we have concrete demands in the ECI, in this European Citizens Initiative, including strict pesticides reduction, protection and promotion of agroecology, democratic control of over agri-food policies, including inclusive public consultations as mandatory steps in decision making, so that we stop ending with decisions that are not reflecting the majority, what the majority wants, but only reflects the need for profit for a very few, for the few companies who benefit all these practices. Democracy in food begins with those who feed society. and who can defend life against the profit. So that's all of us, and I really hope that we are going to be able throughout the year to mobilize at least 1 million citizens who will join us in this ECI journey. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ramona, and thank you for your work and your incredible power to face this incredible challenge and threat, which we oftentimes are not really aware of until it actually hits us. And most times it's also about our health, right? Where we feel these consequences. So I'm very happy to have heard these three different presentations. And we have a question from ARC 2020.
Yes. Hi, thank you. It's so nice to hear that it can work. And I would like to know if there are any articles or something that we could share, because at ARC we are a media and we can share this kind of experiences and that it can work. And it could maybe inspire others. So I wonder if there are anything we could look for in that sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to be short because I think I took up a little bit of time. On our website, ecorouralis.ro, we published constantly whenever we had a result in court. We published the result, but also the implications of what we managed to achieve. And tomorrow we will hear from the solution of the Court of Appeal on an action for the suspension of these authorizations. And also on the 25th of February, we are going to hear from another judge for another parallel court case on the annulment of this authorization. So yes, tomorrow and on the 25th of February, we're going to make public communications. We normally do them in Romanian, but we also, for the international partners, we also publish English versions. So I'm going to try to share with the community of the ECI. I will pay attention to that, and thanks for the question and for the interest.
Superb. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ramona, again. We will now move into the roundtable discussion. And while we have some invited speakers, I want to stress again that we do welcome your questions, and this is a moment to have a dialogue and engage and strengthen our alliance. So I will present the participants in this roundtable on the ECI right to food. First of all, we have Almudena Garcia Sastre, the EU Policy and Advocate Officer at FIAN Europe, namely the Food First Information and Action Network. We also have Ramona Duminicioiu, the President of EcoRuralis, as a participant, as well as Dražen Šimlesa from RIPES, the European Solidarity Economy Network, as well as Caterina Bukoyanis, who is our policy lead at ECOLISE. I would like us, Enrique, to change the camera to the speaker, please. And actually, before we go into the, thank you. Actually, before we go into the roundtable, I think we're going to take a few photos, screenshots in this case, to use them later in our communication and to mark this moment together. I guess we should all smile, and then Enrique will tell us when to be ready.
Please turn on your camera if you want to show up, or turn it off if you don't want to show up. And in 3, 2, some more new faces. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful.
Thank you. So now we can delve into the discussion. My first question goes to Almudena as an initiator of the Right to Food ECI and Dražen. And it is what political gap or what motivation or what urgency led to the launch of the Right to Food ECI, and why was building a broad alliance central from the start?
Should I jump in or is
Yes, I don't know if you want to say a few more words to introduce yourself.
okay? Yeah, sure. No, first of all, like I echo also Ramona in thanking you for organizing this important event to bring all of us together to better understand the foundations of the right to food and to be aware how to fight for its implementation. My name is Almudena Garcia, and I work for FIAN. This year we celebrate our 40 year since its creation. So we have a long trajectory in advocating for the right to food, and somehow this brought us until the initiation also of this ECI. Because what we've been observing is like food insecurity numbers are increasing. At the moment, like there is almost 9% of people in the EU who are unable to afford a proper meal, and it raises up to almost 22% of people who cannot afford like a meal with enough protein intakes every 2 days. That's on one side, right, of the food chain. On the other side, we see like farmers really struggling for fair incomes, for accessing land. We look at the Eurostat, for instance, we've seen a decline on the number of farms up to 5 million, which represent like 45% of a decrease of number of farms. So I think the situation speaks by itself in terms of the cost and context, and this is where the right to food approach can come into force, particularly because it's not a right that is unknown at the European level. Like all the European member states have ratified Article 11 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which entails that all member states have an obligation to implement the right to food. Additionally, there's been like in many occasions, the European institutions like promoting the right to food in the different forum. For instance, in 2002, in the World Food Summit, the EU promoted the right to food approach. Also in the Council conclusions in 2023, like they were mentioning the importance of promoting the right to food. So basically, like European Union is promoting the right to food, but from external action approach. And there is, even if member states have recognized and have obligation under international law, there is a lack of operationalization in domestic legislation. And this is where we believe that the European Citizenship Initiative could bring into different policy reforms, but particularly in bringing European legislative framework on embedded with the principles of the right to food. At the moment, what we see is like there is no coherent approach to food. Indeed, like food policy is being legislated by two principles. The first one is the free movement of food stuff, and the second one is food safety. And this, in many occasions, is like contradicting the different initiatives for a just and sustainable transition on food systems. At the same time, like what we identified is some governance gaps indeed the Commission still continues treating European citizens as consumers, so as economic actors. And this makes that all the solutions proposed are market driven. With this approach, what is happening at the moment is that this perpetuates injustice. It doesn't solve the root causes of food systems crisis. And then it puts the solutions on the capacity of consumers to access to food via their purchasing power. So basically, like the European Union continues treating citizens either as consumers or as producers. And what is happening here is there is a lack of recognition of the people's agency in participating and deciding about the food systems in which they depend. There is also another problem that we identified is the lack of connection between different levels of governance. There is needed a coordination among different levels. For instance, like we see many super ambitious local food strategy. However, there is a complete lack of competence to implement those decisions. Many times those decisions are depending at other levels. Example, like there are not local strategies promoting agroecological transitions. However, like that transformation will depend largely on the common agriculture policy decided at the European level. So this is needed very much this connection among the different levels, and particularly to have a coherence approach that the right to food can bring, because it provides this comprehensive perspective by looking at the way how food is produced, how it's distributed, and how is consumed. So basically, this right to food approach can bring this multidimension and dynamic interpretation that food systems requires, and also to embrace the diversity of visions, the diversity of opinions of democratic societies, and in order to advance towards just and fair transitions of our food system. That was the main reasons why we seen like the importance of the CI, and also because, as it has been already mentioned, like food democracy already exists, and therefore like this ECI, which should target beyond also the 1 million signatures, which is, we have 1 year to accomplish. We need to really connect existing struggles across different member states and under this common demand of the implementation of the right to food. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Almudena. I think it's amazing what you've been initiating with this ECI, and it's much needed. Everything you said, basically, that's why I was taking notes, the integration at the governance level, but also looking at the citizens and food, not just from a market and profit perspective, but also from a democratic one, and from a perspective that can enable all of us to have a livable future, which clearly implies a sustainable transition to a different model. I would have the same question for Dragan as well, from the RIPES perspective and your own. What is the urgency now for the right to food ECI to exist? And most importantly, why was of such high importance to build this alliance across different levels?
Okay, I will just add what Almudena already said, because she really very concise and clear summarized why basically we initiated the whole campaign and why it is important. I would just add one thing that is very important for IPES, because we are working also as a European network. We are working on the level of EU policy. I think we are all aware that at the moment that we are really not in good moment to influence public policy on European Union level, because everything that is not connected to security, to arms and preparation for war, for future war, is like doesn't exist. So all basically whole narrative is very hostile to any kind of values that are based on some social, human, and sustainable levels, especially if we compare like 5 years ago. So they are still there, but there is no this kind of enthusiasm. It is like okay, but this is not so important now. And basically with this campaign we also want to emphasize that we refuse this narrative, these changes in public policy, because we still believe that what influence quality of life, of our lives and well-being, is not invest in future wars, but to invest, for example, in areas such as nutritious and healthy food. And another topic I would also like to emphasize, why RIPES, what is for RIPES very important, is we are not talking here about just healthy food, local sustainable food, which is all great. We are talking here on food as a basic human right. So we are connecting food and everything that we nourish and appreciate in the food sector with the basic human rights. And that is why I think we have this quite strong and big coalition. We just need to transform this in enough votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dražen. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important now as we see this erosion of democracy to resist it and to also bring forward into public policy the alternatives, which we see that they already exist, right? So it would really be a pity to not a pity and a threat to our future not to do it and not to fight for food to be considered a basic human right. And to be addressed democratically, right? Not just through top-down decision making. Is there anything you would like to contribute at this point, Katerina?
No,
Right.
it's just to add the ECOLISE perspective and how food is. It's a transversal topic. It's like we didn't engage with food because we were working on food, but we were working on different levels, tackling climate change and so on. And food just kept reappearing. And we have here Ruby, for example, who was engaged. And it's not one topic. It's just part of a living system. So that's why the right to food is very, as an approach, is very adequate and very good to pursue.
Thank you. And yes, definitely, food being a basic need, it makes sense that it is also a basic human right. My next question goes first to Ramona, and I would like to hear from you, what does an ECI like the right to food make politically possible at the EU level? What transformations can we hope it achieves?
Thank you. I will refer to the core of public policy on food and agriculture of the European Union, which is CAP, the Common Agriculture Policy. We witnessed 2 years ago a process that was very disrespectful for the law from the industrial farmers, who completely opened the Common Agriculture Policy and tarnished it, removing or canceling or delaying the implementation of some environmental measures that are so necessary because we are still in the middle of, despite the economic and the security crisis we're also living climate crisis, and we need to respond with public policy to it. It's not just up to the conscious citizens. We need the governments by our side to do that. So in full disrespect for this, the industrial farmers and the agro-business, and in cahoots with our corrupted governments, have opened the cap, have dismantled it, and they allowed the rich farmers to continue to swim in privilege, and they marginalized even more the small-scale farmers, the agroecological model, and so on. We fully understand because we are living in Eastern Europe and we are looking directly at what our brothers and sisters in Ukraine are living in horror. The farmers in Ukraine produce food in completely unimaginable reality that is so unfair and that is so tragic. So we do understand the conditions we are in right now, the importance of security, the importance of food security, the importance of going through this crisis together, and maybe that will affect the budget of CAP, which, by the way, is the largest chapter of the budget of the European Union, and around these giant financial gains, there is a giant interest that are aligned, which created a lot of problems for the food systems. So we believe that we need to shift the center of gravity of this EU food policy from so-called market efficiency and purely economic gains to human rights, to public health, to agroecology. If farmers, big or small, want to use public funds from all of us, they should comply with better standards. Better standards that make healthy food a standard, not a niche for rich consumers, leaving the poor consumers out. That impose environmental measures as a necessity, pushing against the narrative that these environmental measures are an obstacle against profit and production. We also need to have workers that are treated well, setting higher standards for their rights to social and health services, because their work is hard and essential, and many of them have been abused. There are so many stories in the media about migrant workers in industrial farms or industrial food production facilities that are abused. Their work is not recognized enough. So we need to raise up the standards, right? Because we're offering public funds, and people cannot be considered that they're entitled to the public funds. They need to work harder and better to get this access to these public funds. CAP today rewards hectares and productivity, and honestly, an unproductive model. This is not economically efficient. It's very expensive, and it's done at the expense of the public and the future generations. CAP today is not focused on the realization and respect of human rights. So the ECI needs to open space to link CAP payments, CAP subsidies to the right to adequate food, to prioritize small-scale food producers, agroecology, local markets, to integrate social conditionality, as I said before, workers' rights, rural poverty, equitable access to land. This ECI has the potential to shift the CAP debate from competitiveness of EU agriculture to who eats, who produces, and under what conditions. And for this to happen, we will need to unite. This is a moment of us to unite and to mobilize all of us, peasants, consumers, researchers, workers, civil society at large, citizens who care, citizens who are active, and to mobilize and work at all levels. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramona. Incredibly compelling. And I'm wondering if Almudena would like to add something to this idea of what do we want to see happen, what would be made possible by this ECI.
Yes, many thanks. In the same line that what Ramona is saying, I think is a matter of shifting how we understand food and how food is integrated in policy making. Like the right to food, what brings is this approach to understand and to legislate food policy, looking at food as a life enabler, like connected to ecological conditions, connected to knowledge, connected to culture, and diverse across the different territories, with a strong component on democratic and participatory process. So what how the EU policy can benefit from integrating the right to food principles. First of all, because by integrating the right to food, what we look is like systemically the food system. So basically how we produce, how we consume, how food is distributed, and therefore could be like addressed in a comprehensive way, therefore like providing coherence. Because as I said before, like there is like many contradicting principles in the food related legislation, in the agriculture legislation that do not allow to really grant access to food for everyone. At the same time, like by adopting the right to food, what it entails is like it sets obligation. It's nothing new, as I was explaining before. It's just formalizing and operationalizing the obligation that the states have already committed to under international law. At the same time, it provides like legal action. It provides the tools to transform the food systems. On the other side, it's also very much related to social justice. Why? Because the right to food puts the focus on those vulnerable peoples and puts the conditions to address those inequalities. And finally, like there is this indivisibility of the human rights. So the right to food will bring this coherence I was talking, but it will connect also to the fulfillment of other human rights, that the right to an adequate standard of living, the right to the environment, the right of peasants and rural workers, and so on and so forth. Finally, it can provide also the governance structures to ensure meaningful participation of different EU citizens. For instance, one of the main demands of this ECI is the setting of the European Food Policy Council, which could orchestrate at the same time a network of different food policy councils across Europe. So this would be a way of operationalizing these demands that contains this ECI that I think has been shared in the chat. There are like 16 different demands that very comprehensive, touches like legal frameworks around governance structure, also on access to land, to water, banning new genomic techniques. Also, it goes also about the information towards citizens on the promotion of food procurement, but mainly the operationalization of all of this would be to promote a common food policies that is part of the vision of the future of agriculture and accompanies, as Ramona was saying, also the common agriculture policy, which should be targeted to ensure food sovereignty and the implementation on the right to food. So at the end, what we think this strength, the strength of this ECI should serve of is about, as Ramona also was saying, is about uniting current struggles around food. And that's why it's so important that ECOLISE has organized this event, because under a political framework of the right to food, we could bring together environmental activists, farmers, rural workers, consumers, health advocates, social justice movements. So basically that it could serve to create this transnational space that reinforce one struggle with another that goes beyond 1 year, but comes in a later stage in order to advance with policy changes, but also build alliances, political awareness, and collective identity that legitimize the grassroots demand within the European institution and amplifies those voices at local level to bring them across different countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Almudena. I think you hit the nail in the head there with what we're also trying to do today, which is definitely uniting the current struggles. And I'm very happy to see so many different participants from different initiatives. Katrina?
just to bring this climate action angle to this, it's not that climate activists and the climate narrative in general is losing its power. So it's kind of a good thing in some senses, because the climate narrative is starting to move towards the narrative of human rights. And this is why a climate action organization like ECOLISE is joining the struggle for a right to food, because it is the bigger umbrella where we all come for the same struggles, because the right to food, there's no right to food if we don't have sustainable food. And the reason why I think it's a very timely demand as a right, because when we were advocating for sustainable food systems or for eco schemes in the CAP, it was not strong enough. But now this coalition and this framing is the right next step in terms of food and agricultural policy. And I very much echo what Ramona just said about the money, because it is public money. It's like our taxpayer money that is going to big corporations. And this is one part of asking a better share, a better use of this money towards the good and the health of citizens of the European Union and beyond that, and protecting the rights of other peoples as well, like with Mercosur and other agreements that are that the European Commission is signing. We're not protecting not our rights, but not even the rights of other countries that go beyond Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katarina. And I think we're in the right place now to also start looking at the future. How can we all together contribute to this? So my next question goes to Dražen and Ramona, and is about the kind of support which is most needed now from organization, networks, or individuals to make the right to food politically effective and successful, to gather the signatures and not only.
For me, Katarina said at the beginning that we have 291 coalition members. I checked before the roundtable. Now we have already 295. So it is a huge coalition, and basically we need to, as I said, transfer this amazing potential in the votes, which at the moment we don't have. At the moment we have a little bit more than 20,000 votes, and a little bit more. And basically, I know that many we are talking about organizations that have like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands members and people that are supporting them. So at this moment, maybe it is a winter time in Europe. We had long holidays. Maybe it is current political situation that we already elaborated here. But we need, in the next phase, we need to mobilize our own coalition much more, because it is absurd that we have such a huge coalition that are not reflecting its strength in the votes. And another thing which is also important is that we need to, because we are connecting food to the human rights, we need to go very broad. We need to try to reach people that are, let's say, outside of our usual suspects or usual circles that we are moving around, and also involve other institutions, social groups that maybe will not think at first. Also, yes, we need to work online, but I will just share this weekend. ZMAG had a launching campaign, on one public event, and after this event, we got votes like almost double than in previous days. So this personal contact, talking with the people, explaining to them about campaign, why it is important, is especially, I don't know how I hope it is better in other countries in Europe, but in Croatia we have a really low level of trust. People don't trust each other. They are really isolated to each other. So it is really hard to get people only with online, promotion of the campaign. So for us, it is. I think it will be very important to be as much as possible on some real live event and really talking with the people.
Thank you very much. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and we do hope we'll actually have a moment today later when we will go on and sign the ECI. But before that, if Ramona would like to also add something regarding what is needed at this point to make the ECI successful.
Yeah, thanks to Drazen for being so explicit, because I'll just briefly compliment him. I think we need basically co-owners of the process of this ECI who will defend side by side our right to food in the European Union. But not only for the 1 million signatures that we need from the European Union member states, but also long after we collect these necessary signatures. And we need for that national hubs, national alliances that include grassroots organizations, but also are going across the board, because everybody relates to food, everybody eats food. And everybody needs to get involved. This is this is a call for public call for absolutely all. And these alliances need to be able to reach rural communities because they are vulnerable. It's more difficult for them to get organized. They need more access to information, and they are dealing with a more complex and more difficult reality. We need alliances that fight poverty, that defend workers' rights, that support migrants, that build diverse and sustainable food system. And for sure, resources and communication are essential. But you will need to, you should be able to rely on the ECI coordination process and come back to us if you need support for communication. And if you have challenges, we can find the solutions together. We're here to help, and we hope we will be able to do it to the best of our abilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramona. I was just looking for the link to join the movement, since your call was so direct. So if anyone here, and we definitely encourage you to do so, has not yet joined the coalition, I'm sending you the link which you can use to do so, either now or a bit later, but don't forget to sign up for it. You've already heard the impressive impact and relevant and necessary for, again, our livable future the Alliance aims to have. So we deeply encourage you to do so. And I'm not sure if Kat wants to add also a few words.
Just a bit of the other experiences, because we are also engaging in other campaigns, and we will be, and we're starting to engage in ECIs as ECOLISE, especially networks like engage separately into this in this coalition. And this network is not only useful for an ECI, because the ECI has a day after, which is actually implementing the ECI, because it's not just a signature. It's like creating this network, creating the expectation of joint advocacy, and the commitment, most importantly, that we will be demanding what we signed for to be implemented not only in a European level, but also in countries like Greece, for example, where I come from, where not everything is implemented as the European Parliament and Commission agree to or plan to implement.
Definitely. And I think it was Almudena who touched on this, that while we need to integrate and have coherence at the policy level, this also actually means to have integration and coherence and to build up on our already existing initiatives and networks, especially communities also, and as well individuals. we still have a few moments for the roundtable. If there's any questions from the public, either in the chat or by raising your hand. Ruby?
Yeah, hi, a quick one. Thank you very much for this very informative event. Greetings from Finland, also working for Ripes, also for a food cooperative here. I just wanted to say that myself, also a long time working around food, I was a bit struggling as to understand how can I convey why people really now need to sign the ECI. And I heard a lot of good, strong things now here during this event, and would just encourage if there's any way to, or perhaps it's actually already there on the site, or if you would be able to actually even put something of what you were telling today out there for people to also help in this in this campaigning, because as it was said, I mean, food is such a fantastic tool to work around change. At the same time, now there's so much going on. The fact that the ECI is wanting to tie it all together is a very valid one to put forward strongly, and yeah, so thank you, and I encourage to write up in very brief what you were saying now, and for that to help with people who want to campaign. And yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if someone who's closely engaged with the coalition would like to reply to that. Dana?
I can reply if you wish. I think the first of all is understanding the multiple dimension of the right to food, because the idea is, as we say it in several times, the important is to unite the struggles around food systems. Therefore, like, I think first of all it's important to understand it. So I think there is like a toolkit and different materials that could be accessed. Otherwise, like from FIAN, we have expertise on the foundation. We've been working on the defense of the right to food, as I said, for 40 years. So we will be happy to connect and to provide any material. There is also materials provided by FAO as a mandate to implement the right to food. The second thing is, with these multi-dimensions, it was dedicated like one different topic per month across the year. So I'm sure some of those topics will resonate with different organizations in their different struggles. So this could be important for people to understand. And then I think there are other like proposals on how to engage. Like there is different ways to sign, to organize events, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, I mean, we eat every single day. And that affects all of us. I think this is as simple as that.
Thank you very much, Almudena. I actually have a technical question regarding ECI. When does the time started running? Did the time start running? So what is the year that we're referring to? From January this year until January next year, or? Okay, so we still have 10 months and a half.
January 7th.
January 7th, 2026 to January 7th.
27.
Okay. That's very good to know and write down. So we do still have time to engage with this, and like Almudena said, there's many ways to do so. You'll find some resources on the coalition webpage as well. You can always approach them via email or directly by joining the coalition. And we have another question here in the chat from Roxana Triboi. What do you think about the fact that the ECI, if validated, will be managed by the same European Commission technicians who struggle with pushing social and environmental justice agenda in the European food policies?
If that's all right, I could respond to that. I can.
Please.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. look, we need to show trust in the process, because we are using a framework that is regulated by the European law. This European Citizens Initiative is not a petition on the internet. It's really an official process that is recognizing our rights as citizens to make such initiatives that can have a policy impact, public policy impact. So we will need to put our trust in the process fully and to engage with the Commission and to transmit them our conviction that things can happen with their participation, whether they like it or not, whether, I mean, there are a lot of competent people also in the European Commission. And of course, the European Commission is a superpower that is lobbied by all interests. And of course, that by comparison, the industrial, the industry, agribusiness, has access to much more resources. First of all, they have access to our public funds. To exercise their influence, but there is an imbalance of power, but we need to use, because by using the process we will strengthen it. It will be very much up to us. The result of this ECI, of all of our efforts to make this ECI a reality, it's going to be very much up to us. Things are not going to just happen. There is no automatic mechanism that will start once, let's say, signatures are all collected. So we will need to look at long-term work, and very well my colleagues said before that this is not just about, the work doesn't end when you finish collecting the signatures. The policy work that is following after that, it's actually the hardest part. So let's use this year not only to collect the signatures, but to get to know each other. I am absolutely positive that we are able to collect 1 million signatures. Food is something that everybody relates to. And it's something people can understand. We can popularize this in a very, very comprehensive way. This is not, of course, public institutions and the industry is trying to sometimes speak about food like it's a technical, and it's something that's only for very high level people. You need to come from a very technical background to understand the policies or to understand pesticides or who knows what production aspect. But no, food can be understood by everybody. We need to popularize it because we need to democratize the food system. We need to all put our hands in the food system and in the policy process and in everything. Democracy will not happen without us. So we need to take responsibility on it. I hope this answers, and thanks a lot for the question. It's sparkling the exact debate that we need.
Thank you very much, Ramona, and for your answer, and Roxana for the question. And next, I propose to do a very practical exercise and go ahead and sign the European Citizens Initiative. I will be sharing the links. I already shared the demands. I will share them again. It's important that you have your personal information at hand. And I need to copy the link again. Right? Because being related to a citizens initiative, it needs to be able to identify you at the European level. So have your personal information at hand, and this is the link to follow. If I may be spotlighted, Enrique. And thank you very much all for your contribution. I think we're getting there. We're making people want to engage with this, and we're also bringing this energy that is needed not just for the signing, but also for the long-term work and for alliance building, especially on making the right to food a human right. So I sent you the link in case anyone needs any kind of guidance. This is how the webpage looks. We are here on the ECI official webpage. You have the name of the campaign. And on the right-hand side, you can choose a different language. If you'd like to sign in your own native language, you can choose from the EU official languages. And once you've done that, actually we have here the deadline, right, that Dražen was sharing with us earlier. You can then go ahead and select your nationality, right? And then fill in your first name and last name, and then certify that the information is correct. These signatures are verified, so it's important that we all sign once and with the correct information. And then once you are ready with this, you should click on sign. And I'm not sure if this updates in real time, but maybe we can see how it grows, and maybe those who manage the coalition and the website can let us know. But this is what we're looking at, right? So filling all this bar with our signatures. For the Romanians, it requires a numeric code, but this will be requested possibly in a different format for each country. And like I said, this is for verification purposes. This goes directly into a EU database, right? So we can see here all the information. Just jump in if you're having any kind of trouble with it, but I think it's quite straightforward. Lovely. Thank you very much for all those who signed. And one last request regarding this, which is if you would like to do so, share also with your network this link. And I've prepared a message here again. Not sure that, yes, I have the links here. So for the next 2 minutes, if you would also like to share this message I'm sending in the chat with 2, 3, 4, 5 or more contacts in your networks over social media or in some other way, you can just copy and paste the message I just shared there, which says, I've just signed the European Citizens Initiatives for the Right to Food. If you believe good food is a right, not a privilege, please sign and share. You can save this message and share it later as well when you find the time. And of course, encourage all your contacts to not just sign, but also share this initiative and the appeal to signing and supporting the ECI, as well as joining the coalition wherever possible. And yes, I do want to confirm that we will share the resources on the ECOLISE webpage. If you would like to hear more about our campaign or to get engaged with the Communities for Future Right to Food policy positioning campaign from ECOLISE, you can also write to us by email. Enrique is sharing now the links there. And before we go, I would also like to invite you to our next event in the campaign, which is called The Europe We Want, Women, Food and Communities, What Pathways Towards Sustainability, which will take place on the 9th of March from 4 to 5:30 CET. We're not just going to mark the International Women's Day, but also the International Year of Women Farmer. Feel free to distribute this invitation in your networks and organization. And yes, I would like to thank our speakers and practitioners for joining us today and for sharing their very valuable insights and motivating practices. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, especially to celebrate having reached 1 million signatures so that we can then start the policy work together. Yes, if you want to share your contacts in the chat, you can do so as well. And we'll see you again in March. Until then, take care, eat good food, and stay connected.
Thanks to you also for the organization.
Thanks for the moderation. Wonderful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye to everyone.
Thank
Let's
you.
Nice
continue.
day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Ciao.
Shall we stop the recording?